Hello, I am Dr. Pradeep Deshmukh, expert in GLP and allied accreditation processes. I am going to deal with OECD principles of GLP, wherein I will be covering initially introduction and fundamentals of GLP. Shift, Alt and the birth of GLP or genesis of GLP, how GLP evolved in this world is a history. In the early 1970s, the FDA investigated number of cases of poor practices in toxicology laboratories throughout the USA. The results of these investigations in about 40 laboratories revealed many cases of badly managed studies, poor training of personnel, and some cases deliberate fraud. FDA investigated findings, inadequate characterization of test items and test systems as well, inadequate resources available for conduct of study, equipments not properly calibrated, reports not sufficiently verified or not reflecting the actual raw data which is collected during the study conduct, and archiving were very inadequate. Finally, FDA decided that we should have some regulation to cover non-clinical safety studies in the laboratories. So, good laboratory practice or regulations were evolved. The first draft was ready in 1976. However, enforcement of US regulation was in 1979. GLP. Why you want GLP? What is that GLP is all about? What GLP helps us is very important to know for all of us over here. GLP promotes quality and validity of test data. So let us look into what are the main GLP principles of GLP. The main goal is to obtain results which are reliable, repeatable, auditable, and recognized by scientists world over, especially recognized by regulatory authorities. That is most important to know in GLP principles. To continue with GLP principles, the purpose is not to assess the intrinsic scientific value of the study. GLP is nothing to do with science. It is the organization, the management of the study. GLP principles are set of organizational requirements. Important difference between science of the study and organization of study we must understand first. So, GLP's aim is to make the decisions of false negatives more obvious. For example, results demonstrate non-toxicity of a toxic substance. Do you understand what it is? The results, whatever results you get, demonstrate non-toxicity of a toxic substance. That means you are getting a false negatives over there. So, GLP aim is to promote mutual recognition of study data across the international frontiers. That means in India, if at all we conduct GLP study, it should be accepted by all the world countries for registration of your product. What GLP does for us, that is very important. The limit waste resources, limiting use of animals, because when we started practicing toxicology, there were no limitation on using of animals, but now there are limitations of using animals over there. So ensuring high quality of results and validity of data. Whatever data you generate has to be with high quality over there. It should be a valid data. Ensuring comparability of results should be comparable to international standards. Promote mutual acceptance of data. That means whatever data we generate, it should be mutually accepted by other countries as well. So as I told you that GLP is a managerial concept for the organization of the studies, that is non-clinical studies over there or preclinical studies using animals. So let us define what is GLP is all about. The definition of GLP is very simple. Defined condition under which studies are planned. This studies means non-clinical studies which are planned, performed, recorded, reported, archived and monitored. This is what GLP definition stands for. अरे हे कसं झालं? FDA Investigation Findings. The poorly trained study directors and study person, मला वाटतं हे पाठीमागे पुढे झालं. नाही राहू दे. Poorly trained study directors and study personnel, poorly designated protocols, study plan, protocols not followed, procedure not conducted as prescribed or as per the study plan, raw data badly collected, not correctly identified, without traceability or not approved by a responsible person, lack of standardized procedures, poor animal husbandry. These are investigations by FDA when they investigated 100 laboratories in USA. So GLP has 5 basic points which are very important if some organization would like to get GLP accreditation for their organization. These are resources. What are the resources? Resources are like personnel, facilities and equipments. So whatever adequate personnel, adequate facilities and adequate equipment should be available for the conduct of studies. There are rules, we should follow that. So what are the rules? Rules are guidelines or standard operating procedures, protocols or study plan. Then we must characterize the test article identification. The test article, whatever you are going to test in your facility, should be characterized based on the methods available to you, and you must have a quality test system for that matter, followed by documentation, which is very important. That is the reason GLP was evolved. The raw data should be legibly, promptly, there and there only should be recorded. Final report, then archive, whatever is derived from the study should be archived properly. Quality assurance should be available. Who can audit your study, inspect your training, inspect your study, as well as they should provide training to the personnel. Now key dates as far as GLP is concerned, we must understand, as I told you, that it was evolved in 1976. The first regulations were ready in US FDA in 1978. In 1980, USA EPA, Environmental Protection Act, they also followed GLP regulations, and in Europe it was in 1989. We call it as OECD GLP Principles, and in 1996 European Union GLP directives were out, and most of the European countries, they are supposed to follow GLP norms. So let us understand what OECD does for us. There are 30 members, 30 major industrial countries, including all EU countries, as well as USA and Japan are also signatories on OECD principles. The functions as an OECD functions as an international agency. State representatives have ambassador status. That is what is very important, because OECD functions most of the 30 countries, and they regulate all these 30 countries, and wherever data is generated in GLP laboratories, they are supposed to accept it as per MAD treaty. MAD means mutually acceptance of data. As I told you that OECD GLP principles were agreed by all 30 member states. All state accepts validity of studies performed in compliance with OECD GLP principles. I told you about MAD treaty MAD agreement, that is mutual acceptance of data. There are a number of consensus documents available as far as OECD is concerned. There are documents like quality assurance, laboratory supplies, field studies, study directors' responsibilities, computerized systems, responsibilities of sponsors, and conducting short-term studies. So these documents you are supposed to follow in your facility.